Let's talk about this bid sheet. So this bid sheet was not designed for you to invest your own money on. This bid sheet was designed for you to make a phone call on. So when we put this bid sheet together, it was so you just understood when you called this motivated seller back, you just understood what was going on and where you could be to be able to set up a site visit. So let's talk about this main spreadsheet and how it works. So let's say we have a low comp, not a low bid, a low comp of 80,000. Let's say we got a high bid of 120,000. So that makes it to where it's a $100,000 comp. So what we did was we took the low comp, the high comp, we took the average, and that's where we got our comp at. So then in order to do the rest of the math to where it works, we need to enter the square footage. Then the rest of the math will work. So this was laid out in again, a very simple thought process on what an average investor would go after. So understand when I go through this bid sheet, it's not that you're not going to have investors that will buy complete rehab properties. You know, properties that you would think should be a tear down are not always going to be a tear down. I have bought properties as a risk that need a lot of work, but I've ended up making a lot of money because I figured out how to lay it out and make it so I can make the most money possible. Let's explain each side. High bid, $10 a square foot repair costs. Understand that's what I would call paint, carpet, rehab, repair. So simple things. Paint, carpet, maybe replace a door, maybe replace a toilet, something like that. Basic repairs. That's where we get the $10 a square foot. Then we have a 15% for the cash buyer. So understand, they didn't have to put a whole lot of time in it. They didn't have to put a whole lot of money into it. They're okay with a 15% return on their money, which is really good in compared to other places they can put their money and get a return off of. Then we end up with the 72.5 after we take these two costs out of it. Then we need to take your profit out of it. So I often get asked, does this limit what I can make? No, absolutely not. So if you can make 60 grand on this property, make 60 grand on this property. If you can make it to where you don't have any costs that come out of your sale and you make 7,000 instead of 10,000, it sells quicker, it all lays out well, why not? Let's sell it. So please understand that that profit spot does not limit you on the money that you can make. Now, low bid side. So this $25 a square foot repair cost. So this is a little more of a repair. So there's probably holes in the wall, trim that needs replaced, doors that maybe need replaced, couple windows. It's going to need a little bit more work than the lipstick and paint that we talked about before. So that's where the $25 a square foot. If it is stripped to the studs, no electrical, no plumbing, no heating and cooling, $25 a square foot is not enough. That does not mean that the investors are not going to be interested. That just means think about that when you go to the site to look at it. If it is just a bones and foundation house, then we have to kind of figure that in the long run. Now, when in doubt, sign it. So if you're new in this, which if you're going through this, you're probably pretty new, when in doubt, sign it. You're not going to learn anything by not signing the contract. So when in doubt, sign it. Now 30% for the cash buyer. Now he invested, or she invested, more time and more money and a higher risk in this property. So he's going to look for a higher profit. I personally look for between a 27 to 35% profit no matter what. I have a formula that I work off of. We can talk about that later. Again, at the profit, we talked about that over here. That's where we get the low bid. Now, let's talk about the low bid and the high bid. This is a goalpost. These two numbers are goalposts. That does not mean you can't sign a property or negotiate a property below the low bid. The reason I say that the low bid is always zero is that is a more feasible goalpost. So the reason that we talk about a sweet spot in order to automatically set up a site visit is because if it's in between these numbers, you haven't asked a whole lot of questions, you're going to get farther face to face than you will over the phone. Sell in your seat, not on your feet. So, what is the difference between a bid and a comp? So if you call your coach and you say, hey, this property's got a high bid of $62,500, they've got a pretty good idea of where the pricing can be just off of the number that you gave them. If you call them and say it's a $100,000 property, I'm seeing about a $55,000 high bid, that makes a lot of sense to the coach because they can put it in their mind. They've worked with this bid sheet. I work with it every day on my properties when I'm returning the phone calls. So it's important that you understand the term between the comp and the bid. So the bid is where we're going to decide whether or not we're going to go look at the property. I kind of look at this high bid number, the 62.5, kind of like a fulcrum. So if I'm above it, I'm going to be going about it one way. If I'm below it, I'm going to be going about the conversation a different way. If I'm too high and too close to the comp, I'm completely out of it. So the next thing, it helps me decide if I'm going to go look at the property or not. So if it's below the high bid, I'm going to automatically go look at the property without asking any more questions. Now, oftentimes I would ask more questions and decide if it's worth going and looking at. But when in doubt, sign it. 80% of my properties I go look at. Even if it's higher than the high bid, as long as it's not too close to my comp. Are you paying attention to the terms? So I decide whether or not I'm going to go look at the property by some questions about the property. So the condition of the property. I never point fingers at the seller. I never say, when's the last time you fixed the property or repaired the property? I always ask, what is the condition of the roof? What's the condition of the windows? What's the condition of the siding? I never, ever point fingers. So I hope that really, really helps you. This bid sheet is under the step 3 materials. It's called the auto high-low bid sheet. And the math on the bid sheet is already done for you. I would recommend that you spend some time and figure out how this works when you have some time. But this is how the bid sheet works. It is a super important tool, especially in the beginning of your investing career, that you understand this bid sheet. As time goes and we start playing with other things, we'll change your mindset a little bit because you'll have more experience. This helps you look really, really experienced and understanding on which direction to go. We'll see you on the next video, and happy investing.